So with the recent news that the Marvel Cinematic Universe are rebooting the Blade franchise and are now having Mahershala Ali in the titular character role, I thought I'd go back to the original Blade movie and see if it still holds up today. Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel Lifestyle Critic. I hope you're having an amazing day. So in this video we are going to be reviewing the original Blade movie, which is a true superhero horror action movie that is the first installment in Wesley Snipes' Blade trilogy franchise movie. Now this is the first real official comic book movie coming from Marvel, and it really did set the stage for future comic book adaptations. Everyone is always quick to assume that it was the X-Men brand that kind of kick-started everything, but actually it was Blade, and they did a really impressive job in terms of bringing vampires into the Marvel space, into the comic book space, into the movie space, and putting their own spin on it. And actually it is really impressive, and I'm going to be breaking it all down for you in this movie review. So this film introduces us into the dark world of vampires, and actually it is pretty true and pretty reflective of the vampire lure in terms of them having fangs, having a bit of a weakness to sunlight, wanting to drink humans' blood, and having certain weaknesses, for example garlic. And we're also introduced to the main lead character, who is Blade, and he's a bit of a daywalker, which means he's a hybrid of vampires and of humans, and he possesses all of the supernatural strengths of vampires but none of their weaknesses, apart from having a thirst for human blood. We're also introduced to the main lead villain, who is Deacon Frost, and he is a bit of a turned vampire, which means he's always at odds with the pure vampire breed, which actually I do think is really interesting social commentary in terms of certain elitist people looking down at other people from certain ranks. But anyway, the Deacon Frost character wants to perform a bit of a satanic ritual which will involve pure blood, which is really interesting, and the film then explores whether or not Deacon Frost is going to be able to get away with his plan, and seeing how the Daywalker is involved with all of this as well. Now from a positives point of view, they did a really good job in terms of creating a really adrenaline-fueled, action-packed and fast-paced atmosphere in this movie. And actually it's really interesting to see a much darker take on the superhero world, and also introducing the audience to the darker Blade world as well. However, from a negatives point of view, I feel like they did so much in terms of building up this massive ending, this epic event, this real big ritual that is involving all of these different characters. But I just felt it was a little bit anticlimactic and a little bit rushed. And given the fact that they were building up so much, they should have done so much more with it. But you know, that being said, from a storyline point of view, I actually do think that it does stand up today. So from a cast and characters point of view, the first Blade movie is actually really impressive, as it's got quite a few different characters for you to follow in this movie, and it really does build up both of its lead characters in terms of the hero and the villain, so you can really see where all of them are coming from. And it's really good in terms of having character arcs for all of the different characters in this movie, which is really great. So let's break them down one by one. So first up, of course, we have Wesley Snipes in the main lead character role of Blade himself. Now I was a little bit apprehensive, as I didn't know what to expect from Wesley Snipes in this role, as he is such a great comedic actor. I didn't know if he could take to this role, but actually I was pleasantly surprised, as he does a really good job in terms of being a true action hero star with a bit of an edge as well. And you're really able to follow the Blade character, you're able to understand where he's coming from. His emotional arc is really great in this movie as well, and you can really see why he hates vampires so much and why he just wants to rid the world of vampires once and for all. Next up we have Dorff, who is the main lead villain and plays off against the Blade character and all of the pure bloods really well as the Deacon Frost character, and he is just so hell-bent and so relentless on his plan with the ritual, which I think is really compelling. And I just feel like his performance is really good, as it definitely does put a chill down your spine. And he's just so calculated in how he tries to plan everything really well. This originally was going to go to Skeet Ulrich, but then it ultimately went to Dorff, and he did actually do a really good job in this role. Next up we have Wright, who is playing the Dr. Karen character, and actually she does a really good job here in terms of being a really strong, independent woman in this movie, who is really able to hold her own. So she's definitely not one of those damsel in distress type characters, And because she has a medical background, she's actually able to add a lot of value from that perspective as well to the team. And then finally we have Kristofferson, who is playing the Abraham character, and he is Blade's mentor and Blade's weapon maker as well. And I love the banter between him and the Blade character. They basically don't hold any punches back, which is really, really hilarious to see. I mean, we do have some other characters, for example, the vampire supporters and all of the vampires themselves, and they are interesting, like I said, from a vampire lore point of view, but these are definitely the 4 main characters that have the best character arcs across this movie. So even though the first Blade movie was made well over 20 years ago, I do think it does still hold up today in parts. I mean, some of the CGI, God, it seems very, very, very dated. Great for the time, but I feel like if you look at it now, you can tell that it's not the best. But you know, that being said, some of the action sequences in this movie are absolutely awesome, especially the opening one in the underground club. I feel like that sequence where Blade literally doesn't hold any prisoners back. He is just destroying all of the vampires, and so many of them against this one character. He really did show how unstoppable he is. And all of the action sequences across this movie, actually, they were really, really great from a spectacle and cinematography point of view. So the visuals overall, whilst they are pretty old, it definitely is still able to hold its own as well. So whilst I did think that the ending of this movie was pretty rushed, I do think that it is the best Blade movie within the trilogy. I do think it'll be really, really interesting to compare this to the reboot that's coming up, as this movie is pretty iconic and does have a massive fan base as well. And it did also spawn a bit of a TV series where they recasted all of the roles, but I do think compared to that TV series, the first Blade movie is really, really cool, especially as they built up the villain alongside it. In terms of comparing it to other superhero dark horror-based movies, I do actually prefer the first Blade movie to Constantine as well. And like I said before as well, I do feel like it was very strong as it spawned a massive, unstoppable comic book series takeover from a movie's point of view. So overall, I did really, really enjoy the first Blade movie. I think it's very, very dark, but also is pretty fun and very comedic in certain moments as well. I feel like Wesley Snipes did such a good job in terms of being a true dark figure in this movie, but also having a few light relief moments as well. Very, very action-packed. Some of the sequences are absolutely awesome, and there are some really interesting themes and a very layered storyline happening here as well. And like I just said as well, it definitely did spawn a massive comic book movie takeover, which is really, really cool. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10. I'd love to hear what you think, so please let me know in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.